The first laugh came from the back of the town hall, sharp and careless, the kind that makes other people feel brave enough to join in. By the time Elias finished explaining his idea, the room was full of it. Grown men shaking their heads, women whispering behind their mittens, someone muttering that winter had finally frozen his brain. A henhouse dug into the ground, like some kind of animal burrow. In northern Canada, where the cold could split wood and silence lakes overnight. Elias stood there with red ears and numb fingers, holding his folded papers, feeling smaller with every chuckle. He nodded once, thanked them for their time, and walked back out into the snow alone. Elias wasn't new to being underestimated. He was a widower in his early 40s, raising 2 kids on the edge of a town that survived mostly on habit and pride. His chickens were his quiet project, something that made the long winters feel a little less heavy. Fresh eggs meant warm breakfasts, meant not having to count every dollar so closely. But last winter, he had lost half his flock to the cold. He'd lain awake at night listening to the wind claw at the boards, knowing the heat lamps weren't enough, knowing he couldn't afford better lumber. So he'd started reading, talking to old trappers, remembering stories his grandfather once told about root cellars and earth shelters that held steady warmth even when the air turned cruel. The dugout henhouse took shape slowly, shovel by shovel. Elias dug until his hands ached and his breath burned his lungs. The kids helped after school, their laughter echoing inside the shallow pit as if it were already alive. He lined the walls with reclaimed boards, packed earth tight around them, and built a low roof thick with insulation and sod. From the road, it looked like a strange hump in the snow, hardly worth noticing. The town noticed anyway. Jokes followed him into the grocery store. Someone left a note in his mailbox asking if he planned to live underground with the chickens too. When winter came early that year, it came hard. Temperatures dropped fast, and the wind didn't seem to rest. Elias checked the henhouse every morning before dawn, opening the heavy door to a rush of warm, damp air and soft clucking sounds. The birds were calm, feathers fluffed, water still liquid. He'd stand there for a moment, eyes stinging, feeling something close to relief settle in his chest. Across town, the cold did its quiet damage. Heat lamps failed, power flickered. One by one, traditional wooden coops turned into frozen boxes. People woke to silence where there should have been noise, to still bodies stiff with frost. By mid-January, eggs were scarce, prices jumped, and frustration crept into every conversation. No one laughed much anymore. The first knock on Elias's door came on a Sunday afternoon. It was a neighbor he barely spoke to, hat in hand, eyes tired. He didn't joke. He asked questions instead. How deep was the henhouse? How warm did it stay? Did it really work? Elias answered gently, without the bitterness he felt he might deserve. Over the next weeks, more people came. Some brought apologies. Some brought coffee. Most brought a quiet humility that winter has a way of teaching. By the end of February, the dugout henhouse wasn't a joke. It was a lesson. Elias helped others dig their own, lending tools, advice, and time he barely had. The town changed in small ways after that winter. People listened a little more. They laughed a little less quickly. They remembered that survival up north had never been about mocking strange ideas, but about learning from them. On the last cold morning before spring finally hinted at returning, Elias gathered eggs while the sun crept weakly over the trees. His kids waited inside, arguing over who would get the biggest one. He smiled, feeling the warmth rise from the earth around him, steady and patient. The town had laughed once, but winter had the final word. And this time, it spoke softly, from underground.